Hello everyone, this is Lolly. Today I want to show you how I made this pen. And this would be a really great idea if you are making your own journal out of your favorite cardstock, your decorative cardstock, because you can make your pen to match it. Make a great gift. So what I'm going to do today is use this sheet of paper from Simple Stories Faith Collection. I cut it down to 8.5 by 11, although I could have done 11 by 6. Anyway, using cardstock, it's so thick that it's very hard to do this, and you really need more like text weight paper. So what I did was I scanned it into my printer using typewriter paper. So all I'm going to do is trim off this little white strip here and then cut a 6-inch strip all the way across. And I went ahead and trimmed the white strips off the two sides. So now my design goes full all the way around. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, and on this bottom here, I'm going to measure in 3/4 of an inch and put a little mark there. And then over on this side, I'm going to measure 1 3/4 and put a mark there. Okay, so now I have 3/4 of an inch in and 1 3/4 of an inch up, and I'm going to draw a line connecting those two. And I'm going to trim that off. And you can use this for another project. Now what I'm going to do is to grab my ink cartridge or my refill ink for an ink pen right here, and I'm going to glue it right along this edge here. And I need to use permanent glue. And so if you don't want to let your project sit there a long time for your permanent glue to dry, what you can do, you can test this, would be to add permanent glue in a couple of spots and then a low temp hot glue gun in 2 other spots, not the same spots. Don't put your hot glue over your permanent glue or vice versa. So I'm going to use Power Tack. You could try this with regular temp hot glue, but then my only concern would be whether it would melt the plastic here. So now I'm going to turn that over and glue that down. And I'm going to let that set. Now I'm putting this all the way down to the bottom of that and let it dry. Now it depends on your ink cartridge. Mine has 2 little wings here because it's from a click pen. If it's not a click pen, you won't have those 2 little wings there, and it'll be a lot easier to do this project, but it's still doable. So it's important that this adheres so that we can start rolling this pen without it sliding around. So we will come back when that is adhered. Okay, this has had plenty of time to dry, and I do want to trim back a little bit of the excess paper on that side. Get it really close to the ink. Okay. And then all we need is paper glue, and I like to get this elevated up off the surface because I like my hand down here to roll the ink, and it's hard when this is flat against your counter. So I'm going to get some glue right up in there and give it a little swirly. And I'm going to start twisting this really tight in the beginning, especially. Get it as tight as I can. And especially right against the edge here. Right against that edge, you need to really get a really good glue right along that. Keep adjusting and making sure that you're keeping this very tight. I'm not too particular about this end. I'm concerned about the actual paper around the ink itself. It definitely gets easier as you go, and I'm having extra glue squeeze out. I'm just wiping it off as I get to it. Now, I held on to mine too much in the beginning. When I was twisting, I need to just twist it from the middle and not so much right here, because it tends to start pulling the paper into little pieces, and you need to be careful of that. So I'm going around making sure that I've got a nice seal all around here. And then I'm going to take the pen, and sometimes it's a little wonky because your ink might be a little curved. I'm just going to start flattening it right about here above where the ink goes. And I'm going to give that a nice trim right there. Now I want to tell you the difference between, while this is drying, I want to tell you the difference between these two. On this one, I used a 6-inch paper pad. So my paper was 6-inch square. It is a little more floppy. Obviously it's not hard like plastic. You can bend it. I could take this right now and totally bend it. And I thought the more paper we add to it, the more firm it would be. We'll still be able to get a hole right in there. It just, having the wider paper really makes it nice and more firm than you're going to get with just a 6-inch pad. So once this is completely dry, I'm giving this a good 10 minutes because there's so much glue in here. I really want this to have a chance to dry. Once that's dry, what I'm going to do is take one of these clamps. I'm going to use triple thick brilliant brush on gloss glaze. You could use like glossy Mod Podge if you want, but this will also add firmness to the project. If you were doing the 6-inch pad and there was a 6-inch wide strip instead of the 11.5, I would really recommend using the triple thick because it needs the extra strength. This has so much more paper in it that it gives it more strength, and you can get by with just Mod Podge or glossy accents or whatever it is you want to use. So what I do is I brushed one coat on, and then I clamped the ink like this, and then I just used this bent paper clip and I hung it like this to dry. Okay, so let's give this a good 10 minutes. That is good and dry, and I want to put the eyelet in first before using the triple thick because it will be a lot. I'm afraid that once the triple thick is in there and I go to put an eyelet in, it's going to crack the triple thick. So I'm going to use the small hole punch on my Crocodile. If you're going through a lot of layers, you will need to use a Crocodile. Okay, and let's pick out, I think I want to use this really pretty green here. I already have my Crocodile preset for the proper cubes, and if you don't know how to set a good eyelet, I will give you a link down below to how to do that. Okay, so now all we need to do is do the triple thick. Now, I'm going to hold the end, and I'm going to be careful around the eyelet just so I don't fill, it's okay if I go over the eyelet, but I don't want to fill that hole. Now I'm going to grab this. Make sure you get all the way up to the top of that paper to make it waterproof. I'm actually going right up to the middle. And then I just stick my hook in here and I hang it from a wire cage I have in my craft room. So find somewhere where you can hang that to dry. Now you could, while it was wet, you could also sprinkle glitter over it, the whole thing or just part of it. That's another option. And then if you don't like the glitter, when it's all dry, use a brush and flake off the excess glitter and then put one more coat of this over the glitter to seal it. Okay, let's come back after that is good and dry. So that is completely dry. You can tell it's not tacky at all. If you want to do a second coat, you can, and it would give it more firmness. Like I said, you can bend this right now. You can see I can flex it. It is thicker. I think I like this one better than when I was using the 6-inch paper pad. So you can see by the dimensions here that it's a little fatter. The only other thing I need to do now is to put a gourd pin in there, or a garment pin. I have a little tassel and a little charm here. Now, this little bitty eyelet is sometimes it's hard for the little pin head to get in there, so it will flip around sometimes to where the fat end goes up there, and that's perfectly okay with me. So anyway, that's the little charms that I have been putting on there. Love them. So anyway, these would be such a perfect gift to put in like a loaded pocket, or just in another paper craft that you give someone to match a journal that you've already made. I would caution you the fact that I photocopied these in order to get these into a, to be able to print it out on a lighter weight paper than cardstock. You need to be careful if you try to sell something like this, because a lot of times even the paper could be copyrighted and you're photocopying it and mass producing. I'm only doing this for personal use. However, there are also companies that sell digital papers, such as Knitwits, and you can get the digital papers and print those out too, instead of scanning what you already have. So thank you for watching. I think these are really fun. This kind of reminds me of a carrot here. And I think these would fit more easily into pockets in some of your journals. So there you go. Thank you for watching, and thank you for creating with me.